This episode is brought to you by my bookkeeping strategy sessions. When it comes to your bookkeeping, you're probably in one of these three areas: doing it yourself, outsourcing some or all of your bookkeeping to a professional, or understanding what the reports mean and making better business decisions from that information. Each of these stages comes with different struggles and questions, and I can help with all three. Bring your questions and I'll bring some solutions. To book one of these sessions, email me at lydia@dacbalance.com. Now on with the show. You've started a home-based service business and you've found that running a business is harder than it looks and more overwhelming than you ever thought it would be. This podcast is the best of the best information that I've learned to help grow and sustain my business. Listen, subscribe, and follow along. We can avoid the overwhelm and start creating a business we love to run. Welcome back to the podcast. In the last episode, we talked about what your expectations are for your bookkeeper that you have. And this episode, we're talking about your bookkeeper's expectations for you. And this is all a part of our Outsourcing Your Bookkeeping series that's going to run through September and October of this year. So I want to share 3 specific things that your bookkeeper expects from you, whether you realize it or not, and truthfully, whether they tell you or not, they are expecting these things from you. Number 1, your bookkeeper expects that you know what you want them to do. So go back and listen to the last episode where we talked about different bookkeeping tasks that you have in your business, and I tell you where you can get my cheat sheet to divide up the tasks. And your bookkeeper will expect you to have those tasks divided up and for you to have a clear expectation on who does what in your business. So that means that your bookkeeper comes in, if you tell them that you just want them to reconcile, then that's what they're expecting to do. And if you come back and say, well, why wasn't this bill paid? Well, that's not something you wanted them to do. You didn't say that expectation for them. So they're going to expect that whatever you say is what you truly know. And it could be that if you tell them, I don't know what I need you to do, then they can probably sit down with you and help you figure out the tasks that need to be done. But if you don't say that, if you just say, just reconcile my books for me because you think that's more encompassing than it is, well, you're going to run into some problems. So make sure that you have a clear understanding about what you need from them, and that you're clear about that, and that is truly what all you expect from them. Number 2, your bookkeeper expects that you're keeping up with your receipts. So they can't follow you around to every meeting, restaurant, what have you, and sit beside you and make sure, and as you make all of your online purchases, it's still your job to be keeping up with receipts, even if that just means that you're leaving them in a file for your bookkeeper with some information written on them. For example, you could have spent $50 at Starbucks, but was that for a client meeting? Was it for a giveaway, a marketing promotion, a donation? You have to give them detail on what you did and why you did it. Otherwise, their job will be impossible and you're not going to have accurate information. So they're still expecting that you are keeping up with your receipts and giving them information on why you spent money and what it was for, so that they can track that in your books for you. Make sure that you're doing that. It makes everyone's life so much easier. Number 3. Your bookkeeper expects that you will make time for them, especially if you've asked for the meeting. So if you've asked your bookkeeper to meet with you monthly or bi-monthly to go over your financials, then they expect that you're going to make those meetings happen. If you don't request that information and don't expect it, then when they send you reports and you don't look at them for months and months on end and get upset when you don't know what's going on, well, sorry, Charlie, that one's on you. Because if if they're still sending you reports, but you're not looking at them and you've never set the expectation or asked them to meet with you, then don't be upset when you don't know what's going on, because you haven't been keeping up with it. And they're kind of expecting that you're still trying to make an attempt at least to know what's going on in your own business. Okay, that was a little bit of a tough love. So I didn't mean to, if you're not doing those things, or if you're thinking, oh, I have a bookkeeper and I'm not doing those things, well, it's fine to reset expectations. You can do that. You can ask them, hey, I just need you to meet with me for an hour once a month when my financial statements are run to make me look at the numbers or make me understand what's going on so that I'm actually doing this, and then actually go to the meetings, like actually make an attempt to be there, and don't just be a drama queen about it and throw your hands up and say, well, I'm just not a numbers person. No, that's not appropriate. You're better than that. Come on now. So a little bit of tough love there for you. So let's move on. Let's talk quickly about price. Obviously, what you need done and how many hours you're asking from your bookkeeper is going to affect the price. And if you find someone hourly, I'm seeing the going prices between $65 and $125 an hour, depending on where you live. And that's where you are in the country. If you're hiring a US bookkeeper, if you hire someone overseas, then it can be less than that. But just keep that in mind. That's about the range that I'm seeing right now for a good bookkeeper. And if you're looking for monthly work, and the low end is around $300 a month for basic functions, and it can go up to over $1,000 a month if you have a complicated back end, if you have things that need a lot of attention for your business, if you're outsourcing this. Just keep that in mind if you're thinking about what are their expectations for you to pay them. They're obviously still going to give you a quote. You can still talk to 2 or 3 bookkeepers and see what they're going to charge, what they can do for you, what their turnaround time is, and things like that. But just to give you kind of an estimate on how much money you need each month to pay for this, it shouldn't, unless you're paying hourly, it really shouldn't change month to month too much. If you really do want to find someone who can give you a set price for your own business, because that's going to be a lot easier for you to budget for and to keep your fixed costs as low as you can, or at least manageable in your own business. Just so you know, those were kind of the numbers that I'm looking at. Again, $65 to $125 an hour, depending on where you live for hourly bookkeeping. And then for monthly work, the low end is around $300 a month. And also when we're talking about budgeting, you can budget your time as well. So if you're going to outsource your bookkeeping, then you still need to budget at least 1 to maybe 2 hours a week to keep up with your receipts, and then time to meet with your bookkeeper, or just to look over the information that they're sending you, especially if you are requesting those reports. So keep that in mind. Keep these things in mind about your bookkeeper's expectations for you. Again, they're going to expect that you know what you want them to do generally. You don't have to know really like every little thing that every little like way that they do things. Like you don't need to know all of like the tactical details, but you should at least have a list of, okay, these are the things that my bookkeeper does. And it's a great idea at the end of each month to have that list printed out or on your computer, and for your bookkeeper to mark off and say, yep, I did this, this, and this. And for you to be able to look and say, yeah, they finished all of these things as well, so that every month everyone's really clear that, okay, the bookkeeper did what they said they were going to do. And then from the bookkeeper's perspective, they can look at the list and say, okay, the client checked it off. They're happy with the work. We can all move on to the next month. That is another level of communication that you really want to get to with your bookkeeper, so that there's no question of, well, did this happen? Did this not happen? All of that. You want to be really clear. And then number 2, again, your bookkeeper expects that you're keeping up with your receipts. If you struggle with this, ask for help. Like, no business owner is going to be perfect with their receipts. And it's much better to do something instead of nothing with your receipts. So if you need some help with this, ask your bookkeeper. If you have an assistant, ask your assistant all the time to make sure that you're keeping up with